All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Molly Starback from the Office of Postdoctoral Services, and we are joined today by our good friend, Alicia Karenman. Alicia is the Funding Opportunities Specialist for the Duke Office of Research Initiatives, or DORI, where she manages the Duke Research Funding website and all those related communications. If you aren't on her mailing list, you should be. And today, Alicia is going to tell us about some great funding tools that we can use to, as the name says, find funding. So without further ado, Alicia, thank you so much.
Thanks, Molly. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming today. This is going to be fairly informal, so if you have questions as we go along, feel free to drop them in the chat or do the little hand raise emoji or whatever, and I'll try to keep track of that stuff. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let's see, I have a million windows open. I think this is the right one. You should all be seeing a thing that says like Duke Research Funding. Okay, I see some nods. Great. So basically what we're going to do today is talk about some of the tools that Duke has to let you know about funding opportunities, or so that you can search for funding opportunities. And we're going to try and kind of go through it from like the easiest, most simple way to sort of more complex things as we go along. So as Molly said, I do have a newsletter. It's the Funding Alert newsletter. It comes out every Monday, or Tuesday if it's like a holiday or something. But it comes out at the beginning of the week, and it's everything that was posted to this website, the research funding website here. I'll pop this link in the chat for everybody. So you have it. So this is a big website that has tons and tons of grants and fellowships, and a lot of them are for postdocs. And every week we send out a newsletter, and it's like, here's everything that was posted the week before. And there's also news items for, internal funding opportunities or other kinds of things of interest. Sometimes there's, grant writing seminars or, webinars or things like that. And then it's organized like by discipline. So you can go through and you can be like, oh, I want to see like the medical clinical ones. I want to see the social sciences ones. But there is also a section for postdoctoral fellows. So you can click through and see just kind of those and see what's out there. So both of those are things I would recommend doing. And if you want to subscribe to the Funding Alert newsletter, it is right here on this page. You can request subscription at this link on the right here. It is a closed lister, so I have to approve it. So if you use your Duke email address, that makes it easier for me because I can just automatically check yes on those. I don't have to be like, who are you? But that's the easiest way to kind of keep track of funding opportunities. If you're not necessarily looking to apply for something immediately, if you just want to kind of keep an eye on what's out there, that's the easiest thing you can do. The next thing you can do is come here specifically and do a search. You can just do a keyword search. I don't necessarily recommend starting with a keyword search. Or at least if you do start with a keyword search, be willing to play around with things. I'm going to give you several pieces of advice today. And this is going to be the first piece of advice I give you. When you're searching for funding, you want to try to think of bigger, broader keywords. So like if you're doing research in like a library database, you're using really specific terminology, right? But if you are looking for funding, you want to find something that your specific project can fit under, because there's not necessarily going to be something for your specific project. Like, here's an example. There is a professor at Duke who studies mycology, that is mushrooms. Well, do you think there's a ton of funding opportunities for mushrooms? I looked it up once and there were like 2, and I'm sure he's applied and won those a bunch. But anyway, but he can apply for things under biology or ecology. So like try to think of kind of broader keywords that your research might fit under and start with those if you want to do a keyword search. But you can also just click advanced search right here. And there's all different disciplines. You can, I'm in medicine, I'm going to click medical. You can be more specific. I want the ones that are just clinical. I want the ones that are just translational. I want the ones that are social sciences, arts and humanities. All of those are in here. And then eligibility, here you go. Here's postdoctoral fellows right there. So that will automatically be things that you should be eligible for. I mean, obviously, depending on what kind of funding you're looking for, your situation may or may not apply. So you do have to kind of read the eligibility carefully, but that's true for any award. So The next thing down is if it's institutionally limited, you might want to run across this. So let me explain what that is. For some awards, Duke can only submit a certain number of nominations. It'll be like Duke can submit 2 nominations or something. So if you see language like that, that means there's probably some sort of internal process you have to go through. Sometimes it's like a full kind of mini application and people will review it and pick the nominees. Sometimes it's more first come, first served if it's something that we think isn't going to be very competitive, like there aren't going to be like 18 different people who want to apply for it. But if you see that language, kind of look and see, because you can't apply directly for that necessarily, or you need permission before you apply. So just keep that in mind. The next thing down is funding type. I mean, if you're looking specifically for a fellowship, you can check that. Otherwise, I would kind of just leave all these blank just to see what's out there, and we can always narrow it further if we need to. Funding agency name, if you just want to see what the Duke stuff is, you can type that. If you want to see what the NIH stuff is, you can see you can type in anything and it'll try to predict what you want. The next thing down is funding agency type. So if you feel like you kind of know all the federal funding, but you're more interested in like non-federal, you can check that, but we're just going to leave that. Deadlines, you can ignore that. Those are, I mean, unless you really want to type dates in there for some reason. That's mainly for internal use. And the last thing down before you click search is search all opportunities or search open opportunities only. And the reason it defaults to searching all the opportunities is that a lot of these awards come around annually, but they don't necessarily give you a lot of time between when the deadline is announced and when the deadline is actually there. So this way you can kind of plan ahead a little bit. You can be like, oh, well, I'm interested in this award. It was due in December last year. It looks like it comes around every year. It's going to be due in December again. And then you can kind of start planning what you might want to do in your application so that you can be ready when that deadline's announced, because sometimes they're not announced very far in advance and you kind of have to scramble a little bit. And I'm sure you already know this, but if you're new to Duke, you might not know the process that well. So let me give you a couple of quick words about that before we kind of move forward, since I'm thinking of it. So, you know, for a lot of postdoctoral awards, for some postdoctoral awards, you can apply for those directly if it's like a fellowship at another university or something. But if it's an award for like a research project and the budget is coming through Duke, which some of these, that is the case for a lot of these, you know, you cannot really apply directly for that. It has to go through a couple layers of administration at Duke. So if you're like, oh, this was announced and it's due December 1st, I'll do it the night of November 30th. Well, first of all, that's a terrible idea, because you need to write a good application. You know, you can't just copy and paste the same stuff you copy and paste all the time. You have to really look at what they're asking for and make sure that your project fits what they're asking for and make that argument, you know. And the other reason you can't kind of write it the night before it's due is that it has to go through Duke offices. If you're on the medical side, it goes through ORA. If you're on the campus side, it goes through ORS. And both of those have a very firm 5 business days before the deadline. It needs to be in their hands. And your grant manager and your department needs it before that. So like, you need to be aware of what the processes are for your department. Some departments have dedicated grant managers. Some might work with the campus grants management team, and you can kind of ask whoever your administrator is. If you're not sure who to talk to, they can let you know what the process is for your department. But just keep in mind that that's why you kind of need to be planning in advance, because you need a couple weeks before the deadline to be kind of have your ducks in a row already. All right, that was my spiel. I'm not trying to be discouraging. I just want you to be aware of the reality. And you know what, here, before I move forward, I'm sorry, I'm digressing, but we have an hour and it won't take that long. I'm going to tell on myself. I'm going to tell a story on myself. This is why I take this very seriously. So I used to be an academic librarian, right? And I worked at a library, and we were applying for this little ALA grant, $5,000 grant to do a book club. And we didn't know anything about administrative grants offices, you know? And so, you know, the day before it's due, we tell our boss, like, we're all ready to go. We're going to submit it. And she was like, you need signatures on this. Like, The head of the library has to sign off on this. The grants office has to sign off on this because the budget comes through the university. And we're like, what's that mean? And you know what? They felt bad for us because we were so abysmally clueless, and they rushed the paperwork through, but nobody wants to be in that position. It was horribly embarrassing for the library. It was horribly embarrassing for the librarians involved, including myself. And if the grants people hadn't taken pity on us, we wouldn't have gotten to do the program we wanted to do. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of times the grants people will not take pity on you, and they will actually charge if you don't meet that 5 business days, and your department doesn't want to pay that charge. So again, just keep in mind, that's the reality here at Duke. You know, we need time to make sure your paperwork's in order, your budget's in order, your margins are in order, because some agencies will reject your application if your margins are the wrong width. And we make sure that's not going to happen. That's what the grants people are here for, to make sure your application is ready to go. Okay, that was my spiel about that. And now we're going to click search. Okay, wow, this was a really bad example of a search because 600 is too many to sort through. I think I just did, yeah, medical and postdoctoral. So now you can kind of, if you don't want to go back and do a new search, you can narrow it by all the exact same things we just saw. You know, if you want to see the ones that are just fellowships, if you want to see the ones from specific agencies, if you want to see the ones that are, oh, there's still 400 non-federal, that doesn't even narrow it that much. So I'm just going to click on some fairly at random. I'm going to look at the ones that are cross-listed with engineering. All right. So that you can see there's kind of a variety of things that come up. In terms of the way this displays, it's kind of the furthest out deadlines coming to the deadlines getting closer as it goes down. Any of these things that are underlined, you can resort by. If you want to see the funding agencies alphabetically for some reason, you can do that. If you want to swap the order of the deadlines, you can do that, whatever. And right away, you can see like here are the disciplines it lists, eligibility, agency name, all of that stuff. I'm going to click on this one just at random so you can see what it looks like. Again, here's information funding agency, a little abstract so you can kind of see if this is relevant to you or not. Information on the deadlines, and here's more information here at the agency website, eligibility, etc., etc. So it's fairly straightforward to use. We tried to make this nice and simple. And again, you will kind of have to sort through and look and see if the ones that apply to you, but you'll have to do that anyway. And this is just a nice way to kind of see, this has already been curated for Duke, so we've sifted out a lot of things that people at Duke can apply for already. Are there any questions about that before we move on? I think it's pretty straightforward, but I use it all the time, so I might be biased. All right. And again, if you have a question that occurs to you as we move forward, just let me know. So I'm going back to the main research funding page here. The next things we want are all here under resources. The next thing I'm going to show you is MyResearchHome. Is anyone using MyResearchHome for, you know, I don't know what various purposes you might need it for as a postdoc. Maybe you're not using it. It's kind of a cool, really cool tool designed for keeping track of research administration stuff all in one place. So probably if you don't use it, your PI uses it. But there is a funding opportunities widget in here, which is very cool, and I want to mention it. Let me also point out My Research Path. If you can also just go to Google My Research Path Duke, or I think it's like mrp.duke.edu or something, whatever. Wait, do I still have this open? You can get to it here from this page too. But this is just in a great place. It kind of keeps track of all these different things in the grant process. And if you're like not sure where to go, because Duke has 10 million different offices and they all have names that are like Office of Research something, and it's very confusing for everybody. So that's why we have My Research Path, and everything, all the information is in one place, and it's a very cool tool. So if you're ever not sure who to talk to or where to start, go to My Research Path. But MyResearchHome has this funding opportunities widget, which is really cool. Oh, there's something in the chat. Let's see. Oh, awesome. Thanks, Molly. That's super awesome information. Right,
research navigators are happy to meet with postdocs, so you can make an appointment with a research navigator to be walked through MyResearchHome.
Yeah, that team is part of my office and they're amazing. They're so helpful. Okay, so the funding opportunities widget is drawing on the database that we just looked at, but you can have it recommend opportunities to you. I can't show you how to set up a profile, but if you go to the funding opportunities widget, which is in this little box here, I have it dragged to the top because it's the only one I actually use. Come on, go away, what the heck? So if you click on that, it will prompt you to set up a profile. And it's really cool because you guys all have Scholars at Duke profiles. So what it will do is it will know who you are because of your net ID, and it will recommend keywords to you based on your Scholars at Duke profile. And you can pick, you can also like just choose other keywords as well if those ones are like not super relevant anymore, if your research has changed. You can choose from like Library of Congress subject headings, there's mesh subject headings. And again, it will recommend, mine are fairly weird because I'm not an academic, I'm an administrator. So it just kind of recommends random ones to me. But yeah, it will recommend opportunities to you, and you can also bookmark them. You can like favorite them. And again, those live right here and it's just really cool. So if you kind of want to keep track of one because maybe the deadline hasn't been announced yet, or you want to keep it in mind for later down the road, you're like, oh, this is cool, but I don't want to move on this yet. You can just flag it and it lives here and it's awesome. And you can also browse all of them. I think that, yeah, it just displays ones added in the last 30 days. So that's why you might want to do a search at the actual website because it's much more comprehensive. But if you just want to kind of see what it recommends for you, this is just a really fun way to play around with that information. So again, you have to set up a profile, so it's slightly more complicated, but we're working to integrate these now that I'm part of this office, but it's a slow process, obviously. But yeah, definitely play with this because it's cool. Now I'm going to go back to the research funding page and we're going to talk about pivots. All right, and I will drop this link in the chat as soon as it loads. Okay. So I do want everyone to navigate to this. Let me take off this little end thingy. Okay, so Pivot is a funding database that Duke pays a lot of money to subscribe to. It is a giant international database. And I saw several people today were asking about funding for international postdocs or non-US citizens. And I will tell you that is the #1 question I've gotten the last few years when people are looking for funding, because we have so many cool international people at Duke. And this is the database to go to for that. And we'll talk about that more in depth in a minute. But I want you guys to go to that link. I'm going to have you all set up accounts today. And I'll walk you through how this works. And we'll talk about all the different cool features this has, because it's a big corporate database. It has a million cool features. Okay, so when you click on that link, there should be, I'm trying to remember what it looks like. There should be a thing to set up an account with like your institutional login, and Duke is on the dropdown, and you can just like log in with your net ID, and it should recognize you. If it wants you to claim your profile, just skip that for now. It has this whole thing where it tries to like suggest collaborators to people, and so it has profiles, and so if you claim your profile, you can like update it. But the official Duke policy is that we prefer that you keep your Scholars at Duke profile information up to date. And this will eventually, this looks at websites like quarterly or something, or maybe like once or twice a year and updates them. So your profile might not be super up to date and you might be like, oh, postdoc here now, blah, blah. Duke doesn't want you to waste your time on that. I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine. But Scholars at Duke is our priority. That's the official party line, and I've said that to you now. Okay. So it might prompt you, set up your account. It might make you confirm via your email. It might send you an email to confirm. So I'll just keep chatting for a minute or two while you guys go through that process. And I'll point out one other cool thing that actually might be of interest to postdocs. There is a tab here that says conferences. I'm going to click on it so you can see. It's actually conferences and papers invited. So, if you're looking for conferences to present at or places to publish your work, like I said, this is a big international database. There might be conferences and journals that are not on your radar because they're based in like Europe or something. And there might be something cool here that you could be a rock star at. So this is totally worth browsing. If you have grad students you work with, you can let them know, because grad students always need to publish and, you know, get their work out there. You can see there's so many different fields. So whatever field that you work in, I'm sure there's something that's in there for you. And I just think that's cool. But we care about funding today. So I'm going to go ahead and click on funding. This takes me to the funding tab. Right. So I'm not going to even, that's depressing if you're not in medicine. So we're going to click on advanced search. Again, you can't just do a keyword search, but again, especially with something this giant, this has so much stuff in it, we're going to want to use filters, and I'll talk about that as we go. Okay, now if you do want to use keywords, you absolutely can, but the important thing to note is Boolean operators, or goes across and goes down. And that is important because if you are entering in something that has more than one word, like say you study breast cancer, you absolutely have to put breast cancer in quotation marks, or it will look for the words breast or cancer. And you're going to get everything that has the word cancer in it, and it's not going to be super relevant. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing more than one word, put in quotation marks. The ands are nice if you're kind of like looking for different combinations of things. The ors are nice if you're not sure what terminology it uses, but there is another way around that, and I will get to that in a little bit. The next thing down is funder. If you want to look for a specific funder, you can. Amounts, you know, you can do more than or less than. If you're getting a bunch of like $1 million awards that are not really where you're at right now, you can do a less than. If you're getting a bunch of like $5,000 grad student awards, you can do a more than. We're not going to start with that. We can always change that if we need to. The next thing down is deadlines. Again, I've mentioned the Duke administrative policy. So if you search for something in 7 days or 14 days, you know, someone will kick you in the shins, and you frankly might deserve it. You know, if you are looking to apply for something with a quick turnaround, 90 days, 30 days is pushing it a little, but you can. 90 days is much more reasonable. 180 days, I'm not going to do that. I just want to see what's out there. Limited submission, we did talk about those. Those are the ones where Duke can only submit a certain number of nominations. We're not looking for those. We're going to ignore that. Now, here's where you're going to want to start to sort of use these filters. Applicant, institution, location. Duke is based in the United States, so we have to go ahead and put that in. This is not a question of citizenship that's coming up down the line. This is where your institution is, because again, a lot of these, Duke is the official applicant kind of on your behalf, and Duke is the United States. You can see it automatically checks unrestricted and then sub-entities and super entities. Those are like, sub-entities are like smaller parts of the region, like the Southeastern Conference of whatever. I'm going to also check unspecified, because sometimes if it doesn't specify, it doesn't actually matter. So you might as well look for those. Activity location. If you are looking to do research abroad, this is where you would put in where you want to be to do your research. I think most of you are going to be doing projects here at Duke, so I'm going to go ahead and put in United States. This is just an example search. I'm going to pause for a second and tell you, let me go through this example search before you jump ahead and start putting your stuff in, so that way you can make sure you see all the different things you might want to do, because we're going to have time for you to do your searches at the end, and then I'll be on hand to answer questions. So again, this is just for an example search, but if you are trying to do research somewhere else, this is where you put that. Now, citizenship here, if you're a non-US citizen, is where you can put in whatever citizenship. I am going to put in United States for an example, just to, you know, keep things narrow. But again, you can put in whatever you are. You can check multiple things. If you're a dual citizen, go for it. Apply for whatever you can apply for. The next thing down is funding type. So there's a couple of things that you might want to look for here. So first of all, there is a category for fellowships or postdoctoral awards. If you're looking for more of those, we can go ahead and check that. Prizes and award is in here, publishing or dissemination, research, project grants, and innovation. You know, if you are looking for a research thing, that's where you would check that. I'm just going to do fellowships or postdoctoral awards as an example. But again, you might not be looking for more postdoctoral awards. So you might be looking for research projects. So keep that in mind. Whatever is most applicable for you. If you're looking for travel, that's an option as well. Keyword I'm going to come back to in a second. The next one down is applicant type. So again, there's a bunch of different things here you can check. You know, if you're LGBTQ, if you're a member of an unrepresented minority, underrepresented, if you're a woman, identify as a woman, you might want to check some of those to see what's out there, because there are awards that are pretty general ones for those groups, and you might as well take advantage. Again, you can see there's lots of different ones there, but for postdocs, you're going to want to click on individuals, early career, and emerging in field. And I will tell you, this is my one minor quibble with this database. I love this database. There used to be separate categories for postdocs and junior faculty, and they kind of merged them in a way that I find very annoying, because you can't apply for a lot of those junior faculty awards, and junior faculty don't want to apply for a lot of postdoctoral awards. And so that's very annoying, but there is a way to work around that, and I will go over that with you. The next thing down is funder type. Again, if you're curious about funding from a specific, you know, private foundation, professional society, private sector is in here. There aren't a ton of those, I don't think. Federal government, non-US government, etc. We're going to just leave that open. And the last things down are country of funder, and if it's been recently added, and we don't care about that. I mean, maybe you care about country of funder, that might be applicable to you, but we're not going to do that for this example search. Now, the next thing down is exclude, and this is nice because it lets you exclude from your search all of the exact same things we just took out. So if we're getting awards that are wrong all in the same way, this is a really easy way to take those out. The example that I will use is we once were meeting with, well, let me take a sip of water. We were once meeting with a woman who worked in DIBS, that's the Institute for Brain Sciences, and she studied memory. We just typed in memory, whatever. And there were like so many awards that came up that were in memory of somebody. So we had to exclude that phrase. Isn't that funny? So that the moral of that story is to be flexible and try different things when you're searching for funding. I'm not going to exclude anything right now, but just keep in mind that you can do that, and we might come back to this later. I'm going to pop up back to keyword, which we skipped before, because I want to talk about that a little bit more in depth. I've already talked to you about using nice, big, broad keywords. And if you're not sure where to start or kind of what the best keywords might be, Pivot has a built-in keyword browser. So I just click on browse there, and it's going to pop up. I don't know if you can see, there are extremely tiny little arrows. So you can click on whichever ones. I'll click on, I don't know, engineering. So you can just click engineering and see all of the engineering ones. If you want to be slightly more specific, you can do that. You can see there's all different, here's health and medicine. We can pop that open. You know, there's so many different things you can click on. And we'll play more with built-in keywords in a little bit, but we want to do an example search. So again, okay, I'm going to close that. And you can check as many as you want to. Now, I will say with this database, the more you check, it doesn't get narrower, it adds more things to your search. So it searches for all these things kind of separately. So if you have like engineering and health and medicine, it's not going to look for things that have both of those. It's going to look for things that have either of those. But I'm just going to go ahead and click search now with our little example search, which I don't even remember what we checked on, but we can see that on the actual search page. So we'll see 49 results. That's a solid number. I like to see around like 100 because it's not too many to kind of go through the list. But there's guaranteed to be a couple that are relevant. And I think 49 is a solid number for that. And if you're like, what did I even search on? You can click on more, and it's like, you can see, oh yeah, okay, all of these, here's all these things narrowing it to the United States, early career, engineering, US citizen, etc. If you did want to narrow it down further, again, here's funding types. I want to see the ones that are also listed as research. I want to see the ones that are also listed as travel. Here's the top keywords. I want to see the ones that are also listed as social sciences, whatever. So that's nice. So when you are scrolling through, There's lots of different cool things you can do in this database. So again, here you can see, here's all these different deadlines. You will see some of these will say like anticipated for a deadline. And those are those ones that come around every year. But again, sometimes they don't announce them very far in advance. So they have a cool way to keep track of that. Actually, I'll click on this one. Although this is a faculty fellowship that probably you can't apply for. So this is a horrible example, but I just want to show you because it has an anticipated deadline. Yeah, it's early so if you are going onto a faculty position, keep this in. But that's annoying, I'm sorry. But it has this anticipated deadline here at the bottom. And one of the cool things you can do in Pivot is you can track an opportunity. So what that does is it saves it to the home page here. And you can also, great, I'm tracking it now, that's fine. It will also, and you can turn this off if you don't want it on the home page. It will send you an email when this is updated. So like as soon as that deadline goes live, you'll know about it because Pivot's pretty quick on the ball with those things. Like it's usually within like a couple days of it being announced, Pivot knows about it. So as soon as that new deadline's announced, you'll be ready to move because again, a lot of times they don't give you a ton of turnaround. Like a month is not a great amount of time to apply for something. So this way you'll know. So that's cool. And we were talking about keywords. So since we're in here, I'll show you this. You can see here's all the different keywords for this opportunity. So if you were like, oh, human-computer interaction, that's what I'm interested in. You can click on any of these. I'm going to open it in a new tab, and it will be a search for that keyword. Now, it's not going to have any of your other search attributes. It's not going to remember that you're in the United States or whatever. But this way you can kind of use an opportunity that you're already on that fits to find other opportunities that fit. But I'm going to go back to the search because this was not a good example, and I apologize for that. But I just want to show you how this works, frankly. It's being slow today. Okay, and if you're looking at this and you're like, you know what, these are actually pretty good search results. Like they're not 100%, but it's like 80%, which is pretty solid. What you can do is you can save your search. And what that does is, again, it saves it on your homepage. And I'll show you where both those things live in a minute. But the cool thing about the saved searches is you can have as many saved searches as you want. So once you take the time to set up some searches, it will send you, and it's just for saved searches, it's one email, no matter how many saved searches you have. And every week it sends you an email and it's like, here's the new search results that match your search criteria. So that way you'll know if there's new things you might want to apply for, and you can keep abreast of it that way. So it's super cool and very handy. And you know what, I'll show you where those are now. So if you go to the homepage here, you can see right here, tracked opportunities live here, saved searches live here. I'm going to open those up in a new tab because I don't want to lose this sample search. Okay, so here are the saved searches. If you're like, I don't want to sort through 49 things every week, it's not going to be 49 new results every week. And I'm going to show you that now. So here's my saved searches, which I have a bunch of random ones. I have one that's just all the postdoctoral awards. And if you can see here, here's the new results for this week, and then here's all the results in the database. So for postdoctoral awards, there's 1,900 in the database right now. There were 37 new search results this week. So it's really not that much to sort through. It's not, even if you have a nice big broad search, which I encourage you to try, you know, have more specific searches for your specific subfield of engineering or whatever it is. And then have like, okay, say human computer interaction is your field. Have that, save that as a search. And I want to see all the new human computer interaction ones. And then have one that's like much broader. Like here's computer science things. Here's computer science things that postdocs can apply for. If you're a woman, here's things that women postdocs can apply for in any field, because there are some nice big general ones you might want to apply for. You know, so try different combinations of searches and then save them. And that way you'll always have new things week to week coming in that might be interesting or relevant for you. I did want to show you a couple more things for the search. So here's our search. If you're like, this search is okay, but it's not great, you can click Refine Search and it will save all your search results that were here, but you can go through and change things. If you're like, this keyword wasn't great, you can X that out and you can put in health and medicine or something. So it's really quickly, and then you can just run that search again, and it does save all your search attributes that way. So that's a quick way to kind of try different combinations of things too, is to refine your search. And that one has 469. Wow. But again, some of these are going to be, this is like the Pittsburgh Foundation. Well, we're in North Carolina. We probably can't apply for that one, but some of these might be good. And again, so this is where you would want to kind of narrow it down a little bit and look for the ones, oh, I want the ones that are research. And again, you can do that in refined search as well. You can mess around with different things. I did mention tracked opportunities. Those do also live on your homepage, and I just want to show you how that functions. So again, they're all right here. You can get to them under home. They also just kind of live on your homepage. I can show you that in a minute if this would ever load. Sorry, I have a lot of tracked opportunities, so it's slow for me. So right here, options. You can share a tracked opportunity. Say you want to send it to your advisor, your PI, and be like, is this something you think I should go for? It'll send them a little email with so-and-so sent you this thing. Well, here, I'll show you. You can type in a little message. And even if they don't have a pivot account, the information for the entry, they'll be able to view that for 2 weeks. So it's pretty handy. You can untrack it if you're not interested in it anymore. You can tag it if you're into tagging. You can turn the alert email off or on, et cetera, et cetera. And the saved searches have a very similar set of options, which let me show you that. Okay, so again, you can share a saved search. You can edit the search if you again want to kind of, if it's not giving results that you're kind of into, you can mess with it that way. Again, you can tag it. You can view the archived results to see if those are going to come around again. And you can turn the alert email off, or you can delete it if it's for a project you're not working on anymore. So that's kind of the quick and dirty of how to use Pivot. I would love for you guys to take a few minutes to try some searches, and then I can answer your questions as you're coming across them. This is always slightly awkward for everybody on Zoom, or at least I feel awkward about it. So I probably will look at my phone while you do that, but I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. And I'm also, while I'm here, I'm gonna drop my email into the chat. So if you are playing with this down the line and you're like, I don't remember how to do this, or I don't understand how this is functioning, if you think of a question, in a week, just send me an email, because it's literally my job to help you with this. So you guys take a few minutes to do your searches. I will look at my phone so I'm not just staring awkwardly at the screen. Anyone running into any problems, any questions? Okay, well, those are the main things I wanted to go over with you all today. Again, my email address is in the chat if you run into any problems down the line. I'm here to help. I hope that these tools will be really useful for you as you look for funding, and I hope that all your research going forward is fulfilling and cool, I guess. Thanks for having me today.
Thank you so much, Alicia. That was great. And I learned a lot. I had no idea that you could search for conferences now. So that's really cool. They just keep making Pivot better and better.
Yeah, it's so great.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today with Alicia as part of our virtual postdoc orientation. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Okay. Bye,
Have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you.